Orhun stands alone inside an old, broken tunnel. The place is silent, so he stays alert and keeps his weapon ready. Without warning, several demon rats rush straight at him. He reacts instantly and cuts them down with quick, clean sword swings. After the fight, he pauses for a moment. His breathing is steady. His body doesn't feel weak. He realizes he is not as rusty as he believed. That small success gives him hope. Maybe his dream of becoming a true swordsman is not dead yet. Before he can relax, a group of goblins appears ahead. This time, Orhun decides not to rely only on his sword. He chooses to test his support magic. He casts the spell on himself. Power flows through his body, and a dark green light surrounds him. Support magic is mainly used to increase physical strength or improve equipment. Most people use it on teammates, but it can also be used on oneself. With his strength boosted, Orhun moves forward and defeats the goblins with ease. These kinds of spells are important for surviving hard battles. Still, Orhun knows their weakness. Support magic does not last forever. The duration depends on how strong the caster's magic resistance is. For Orhun, the effect only lasts about 3 minutes. If the spell fades in the middle of a fight, the danger increases immediately. He casts the spell again at the right moment and calmly finishes off the last group of goblins with careful movements. Even after seeing his skill and control, the party leader, Oliver, suddenly tells Orhun that he is being removed from the group. Orhun is completely stunned. He cannot believe what he is hearing. To him, it sounds like a cruel joke. After all, he and Oliver have been friends since they were kids. Oliver then speaks honestly. He says their friendship is real, and that is exactly why he gave Orhun so many chances. But in the end, nothing changed. Orhun can no longer keep up with the rest of the team. Annalie and Derek step forward and tell Oliver to stop softening the truth. They bluntly tell Orhun that he is being kicked out because he is not strong enough. Orhun stands there, frozen. His mind struggles to accept it. This party was formed by Orhun and Oliver 8 years ago. They grew fast and became incredibly powerful. They were the first group to ever reach the 94th floor of the Southern Great Dungeon. Because of that, people began calling them the Heroes Party. Oliver admits that Orhun's support magic is not useless, but during their last mission, they saw enchanters from other teams. After comparing the difference, they realized how far behind Orhun truly was. Orhun reminds them that he is a swordsman, not a pure enchanter. Support magic was never supposed to be his main role. Dennis suddenly snaps at him and tells him to stop lying. He says Orhun only changed roles because Oliver was always better with a sword. Orhun denies it. He explains that the party desperately needed an enchanter, and he was the one with the most talent for it. He even created his own magic to cover his weaknesses. That effort is likely the reason they survived the deepest dungeon floors. Oliver ends the argument. He tells Orhun it no longer matters because they have already found a replacement. Orhun's eyes widen. He asks if this is really how they plan to treat him after everything they have been through. Deep down, he knows Oliver is right. There is no reason to keep fighting. Holding on to his last bit of pride, Orhun turns around and walks away. As he leaves, Annalie calls out to him. She says people like him are called Jack of all trades. He can do many things, but he is never truly great at any one of them. Later, while walking through the tunnel, Orhun thinks about those words. He believes he is flexible enough to master both the sword and magic, and when that day comes, no one will dare call him that again. Feeling exhausted, Orhun decides to head home. At the dungeon entrance, a group of adventurers suddenly runs out. They are pale, shaking, and clearly terrified. Orhun ignores them and keeps walking. Then he hears something that makes him slow down. They are talking about being ambushed by a large group of orcs. With no way to fight back, they were forced to retreat, and in their escape, they had no choice but to leave behind the new girl who joined their party earlier that day. Orhun suddenly stops when he hears their conversation. He knows he should walk away and stay out of it. Even so, his body refuses to move. His hand tightens into a fist. He understands better than anyone how painful it is to be abandoned by your own team. The adventurers begin defending their choice, saying they had no option but to leave the girl behind. That is when Orhun finally speaks. He tells them that people like them anger him the most. They argue back, claiming that even if they had stayed, the result would have been the same. Their leader loses his temper after being questioned by a stranger. He throws a punch at Orhun. Orhun calmly blocks the attack and strikes back, slamming the man hard onto the ground. He then asks them where they left the girl. Deep inside the dungeon, the girl is pressed against a stone wall. Orcs slowly close in on her from every side. She raises a magical barrier to protect herself. For a short time, it holds, but the orcs keep smashing it again and again until it finally breaks. With nowhere left to run, she lowers her head and quietly accepts what is is coming. Suddenly, a strong wind sweeps through the room. In the next instant, Orhun appears in front of her. Without hesitation, he casts his support magic and charges forward. His sword flashes as he cuts down several orcs. The girl stares in disbelief. She has never seen someone fight while using support magic at the same time. She cannot tell if he is a swordsman or an enchanter. Orhun keeps moving, striking down enemy after enemy. The girl watches in shock, unable to look away. As the fight continues, Orhun realizes there are many orcs. He understands why a weak party would choose to flee. Even so, he knows they are no threat to him. Using his enhanced blade, he finishes the remaining orcs in a single swift attack. When the battle ends, Orhun walks over and asks if she is hurt. The girl suddenly collapses and breaks down in tears. A few minutes later, they leave through a nearby exit. Outside the dungeon, Orhun tells her goodbye and starts to walk away. She quickly stops him and says she wants to thank him properly. She introduces herself as Sophia and offers to buy him dinner as a way of showing her gratitude. Orhun refuses at first, saying he did not save her for thanks. Sophia looks at him with pleading eyes. He sighs and gives in, unable to turn her down. He agrees to eat with her. Before they leave, Orhun notices the symbol on her cloak. It feels familiar, though he cannot remember where he has seen it. That night, they arrive at a small restaurant. Sophia says it is her favorite place. When Orhun sees the sign outside, his memory clicks. The symbol belongs to one of the rabbit shops. He connects it to the crest on her cloak and realizes that Sophia is part of the Night Sky Silver Rabbits, one of the largest guilds in the kingdom of Nohitten. Inside the restaurant, Sophia suddenly runs into her older sister, Selma. Sophia asks why she is there, and Selma casually replies that she had business nearby and stopped to eat. Selma notices Orhun and immediately scolds Sophia, saying it is too early for her to be hanging around men. Sophia is surprised to learn that Orhun and Selma already know each other. Selma is a member of an S-rank team, the strongest group within the Silver Rabbits. She is also known as the most powerful enchanter on the continent. She was the one who made enchantment famous. She created the idea of dividing parties into roles: attackers to fight, defenders to protect, and supporters to assist from behind. That system changed how all adventurers prepare for dungeons. It was because of her influence that Orhun chose to become an enchanter for his old party, and after seeing Selma's overwhelming enchantments during a raid last month, Oliver and the others decided Orhun was no longer needed. Orhun looks at Selma, confused by the cold glare she gives him. Suddenly, Selma accuses him of trying to get close to her 14-year-old sister. Orhun quickly explains that all he agreed to was dinner and that his intentions are clean. That answer only makes Selma angrier. She assumes he is saying Sophia is not good enough for him. Before things get worse, Sophia steps in and tells Selma to stop yelling. She reminds her that this man is the one who saved her life. Selma looks confused at first. Then, after a moment, her expression changes. She finally understands what happened. Sophia went into the dungeon alone. Sophia lowers her head and apologizes. The three of them sit down and begin eating together. Sophia is still curious about how Orhun and Selma know each other. Orhun explains that they met during a large raid. Back then, both of them were enchanters assigned to the same unit. Selma ranked higher, so she led the group while Orhun supported her during the mission. Selma looks surprised that Sophia does not recognize Orhun's name. She tells her that he was part of the famous Heroes Party. Sophia gasps and immediately starts acting much more polite toward him. Orhun quickly clears things up. He tells them he is no longer part of the Heroes Party. Selma is shocked. She cannot believe such a skilled enchanter was let go. She asks if that means Orhun is free now. Orhun assumes she is about to invite him to join the Silver Rabbits. Before she can finish, he refuses and says he does not plan to join any party. Selma stops him and says he misunderstood. She is not trying to recruit him. Instead, she wants him to serve as a tutor for a training expedition starting tomorrow. His job would be to help guide and train new recruits. The plan is for adventurers ranked A and above to lead the group. Over 3 days, they will descend 50 floors into the Southern Great Dungeon. Orhun is stunned. Even elite adventurers usually take 6 months or more to reach that depth. Selma admits it will be extremely difficult, but if they take the shortest route, it is possible. Orhun realizes something does not add up. The plan is dangerous enough that the clan could have rejected the sponsors if they wanted. That means there must be another reason. After thinking for a moment, he understands. If new recruits who cannot even defeat a floor boss are allowed to reach deeper levels, the entire clan will grow stronger much faster. Selma looks surprised. She did not expect Orhun to figure that out so quickly. In the dungeon, a boss appears every 10 floors. Defeating it is required to go deeper. New recruits often get badly injured or even die during these fights. But if a tutor defeats the boss instead, the recruits only need to register at the crystal and continue. That is why the clan needs as many powerful tutors as possible. Selma gently takes Orhun's hands and tells him she truly respects him. That is why she wants him on this mission. Hearing her words, Orhun remembers being kicked out of the heroes party because his support magic was weaker than hers. The thought alone tells him one thing clearly: if he returns to being an enchanter, he will regret it. He pulls his hands back and tells Selma he cannot join because he already has plans. Sophia suddenly looks at him with pleading eyes and begs him to come along. Orhun gives up. He agrees, but with one condition. He tells Selma that he has switched paths. If he joins them, it will be as a swordsman, not an enchanter. Selma is surprised but does not argue. If things go wrong, she believes he can always return to enchantment. She tells him to be at Silver Rabbit headquarters the next morning. Later that night, Orhun visits his favorite shop. The owner is about to close, but still invites him in for a drink. The old man thanks Orhun for promoting the store back when he was a famous adventurer. Because of that, business has been great. Orhun feels awkward and admits he is no longer part of the heroes party. Even so, the owner thanks him sincerely. Orhun is confused. Despite being cast aside, he is still being appreciated. The old man smiles and tells him that he feels Orhun will receive many more thanks in the future. He says leaving the heroes party may actually turn out to be a blessing, one Orhun simply cannot see yet. He tells Orhun to trust his heart and walk his own path. No matter what happens, he promises to always support him. Orhun's eyes fill with tears. He bows his head and thanks the old man from the bottom of his heart. The next morning, Orhun shows up at the Silver Rabbit headquarters. He looks calm, healthy, and way less stressed than before. Selma notices this and asks if he feels lighter now that he's no longer stuck with the heroes party. Orhun says, yeah. Kind of. Not fully happy, but at least his headache is gone. Then the clan leader, Vince Bars, steps in and thanks him for coming. He says he's heard a lot about Orhun already, including the very stupid decision of the heroes party to kick him out. Orhun clearly doesn't want to open that wound again, so he smoothly changes the topic and asks about the teaching mission instead. Selma explains that in 3 days, they'll head deep into the Great Southern Labyrinth, all the way to the 51st floor. On the first day, they'll stop at the 21st floor. On the second day, the 36th, and then they'll push further step by step. While she's explaining this, we jump back to an earlier moment. Selma was talking to Vince about Orhun leaving the heroes party. She said it was a massive loss because without Dura, that team would never be the same. Vince agreed. Sure, Orhun's raw magic power wasn't anything crazy, but his real strength was support magic. His enchantments were fast. No, not fast, ridiculously fast. 4 times faster than Selma's. That's like finishing a fight while others are still warming up. On top of that, Selma had seen him use spells that didn't even exist in books. Original stuff. He could read the battlefield, predict what would happen next, and support his teammates at the exact right moment. Basically, he had every skill a top-tier enchanter should have. Yet the heroes party treated him like yesterday's trash. Selma was sure of one thing. With Orhun around, the Silver Rabbits would climb back to the top very soon. When Vince heard all this, he couldn't understand how someone like Orhun Dura could be thrown away so easily. One of his subordinates explained it simply. Support classes never get proper credit. Because she's famous, people overpraise her. But real monsters like Orhun, they get ignored, stepped on, and blamed for everything. Classic teamwork logic. Back in the present, Orhun listens carefully and reviews the plan. There will be 10 rookie groups and 5 escorts. Selma and Orhun are part of the escort team. The rookies will take turns fighting monsters, and if anything goes wrong, the escorts will jump in and clean up the mess. Orhun then asks a very logical question. Why only 5 escorts? With such a tight schedule and so many beginners, wouldn't more high-ranked fighters reduce the danger? Selma smiles and says they want the rookies to face real hardship so they can grow stronger. Orhun immediately knows that's not the real reason. It smells like half a lie, but he also knows better than to push. He's still an outsider after all. Even so, he agrees to help. Vince thanks him and explains the payment. 2 gold coins up front and 10 more if the mission succeeds. Orhun almost chokes internally. That amount could cover a normal person's living expenses for an entire year. He even says it feels like too much. Selma tells him straight up, this is what they think he's worth. Hearing that, Orhun promises he'll give it everything he's got. A few hours later, Orhun arrives at the dungeon entrance. The rookies are already there, nervously checking their gear and pretending they're not scared. When Selma shows up with Sophia, Orhun notices that Sophia is wearing the same outfit as before. Looks like it's the standard beginner uniform. He tells her she looks great in it. Sophia instantly turns red and thanks him in a tiny voice. Selma watches this and immediately starts teasing him, saying he sure knows how to charm young ladies. Then, with a suspicious look, she asks if he has a girlfriend. Orhun scratches his head and says no, but since his old team had women, he probably learned how to talk without getting slapped. Selma remembers that the heroes' party used to live together in one big mansion. Sophia then asks where Orhun is staying now. He casually answers that he's living at an inn. And just like that, the journey into the labyrinth is about to begin. The moment Sophia asks where Orhun is living, Selma completely freezes. Her brain instantly jumps to the worst conclusion. Why does her little sister want to know his address? Is she planning a visit, a surprise visit, a totally not suspicious visit? Selma panics so hard that Sophia has to wave her hands and quickly explain she was just curious. Nothing else. Selma calms down a little. To escape that awkward moment, Selma switches topics and asks why Orhun is standing so far away from the rookies. Orhun calmly explains that since he's an outsider, he doesn't want to crowd them. In fact, keeping some distance actually makes beginners more alert. Nervous people pay more attention. It's scary, but useful. Since we're already talking about nervous rookies, Orhun suggests Selma help calm them down. She agrees and tells Sophia to go meet up with her team. Not long after, Orhun walks with Selma toward 3 adventurers who are assigned as escorts. Selma introduces Orhun with full confidence, praising him and saying he'll be an amazing teammate. Coming from someone like her, that praise hits hard, and the 3 escorts instantly believe it. Orhun, meanwhile, is quietly dying inside and asks her not to hype him up so much, especially in front of others. Introductions begin. The blue-haired guy says his name is Anthem and that he's a defender. Bernard, the serious-looking one, is also a defender. Kathy introduces herself as the healer. Orhun introduces himself as the attacker. Looking at the lineup, Orhun admits the team is well balanced. But then a thought hits him. If he hadn't joined, one of them would have been forced to act as the attacker. That doesn't sit right with him. This plan feels weird. Seeing the doubt on Orhun's face, Selma once again remembers a private talk she had with Vince. He told her he understood how painful it was to lose such a powerful card, but he also reminded her of a hard truth. Orhun is an enchanter, just like Selma. Because of party balance, he couldn't stay in the first squad, no matter how strong he was. Selma agreed, but it still hurt. Her clan hadn't improved at all since last year, not even one step forward. That made her believe the Silver Rabbits were slowly falling behind. That fear is exactly why she invited Orhun to this expedition. Still, Orhun only agreed on one condition. He would fight on the front lines as a swordsman, not sit in the back as support. All Selma can do now is hope that when things get dangerous, he truly stands at the front. After finishing with the escort group, Selma and Orhun move toward the rookies. Selma steps forward, and the moment she does, everyone falls silent. She announces that today marks the beginning of their descent toward the 51st floor of the Great Southern Labyrinth. She knows they're nervous. Reaching such a deep level so early in their careers is terrifying, but she tells them not to panic because she brought someone special in case anything goes wrong. Then she introduces Orhundora. She reveals that he has already reached the 94th floor, a place even top figures of the kingdom have never seen, a level Selma herself hasn't reached. The rookies are stunned. Whispers spread instantly. People turn their heads, staring at Orhun like he's some dungeon monster wearing human skin. Orhun quietly asks Selma to stop raising the bar any higher. She ignores him. Not only does she say he'll be their main example inside the dungeon, but she also casually drops the bomb that he used to be part of the hero's party. Boom. In one sentence, Orhun becomes a celebrity. The trainees look at him like he's a walking legend. After the speech, Orhun complains that she basically placed him on a god-level pedestal. Selma says it was necessary. If the rookies feel safe, they'll perform better. In Orhun's head, though, the word hero only matters if it helps his grandfather run the shop back home. That's it. He just hopes all this attention doesn't turn into a massive headache later. Selma then assigns Orhun to Team 10, made up of the most talented rookies. If they learn teamwork, they could easily reach the middle floors. She grabs Orhun's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze, as if asking him to look after them. Orhun isn't sure if trusting an outsider this much is wise, but it's too late now. He walks over to Team 10. 3 rookies are standing there, including Sophia. Orhun looks around. Something feels off. Someone is missing. After a quick head count, Orhun realizes something uncomfortable. Yes, everyone is present, but this team is tiny, way too tiny. Sending so few rookies together is risky, extremely risky. The confident boy steps forward with a smile that screams future headache and says that no one else can keep up with their speed anyway. Orhun looks at him and silently wonders what kind of menace this kid will become when he grows up if he already has this much attitude now. Orhun tells them to introduce themselves properly. The smug kid goes first. He says his name is Logan Hayward and proudly declares that he's an enchanter who will one day surpass Selma herself. Orhun nods politely, but inside he's thinking, ah yes, confidence level, boss fight. Next is Caroline Inglot, who introduces herself as a defender. Orhun quickly notices something strange. For a defender, she's barely wearing any protective gear. When he asks about it, Caroline casually explains that she hates armor and shields. She prefers dodging instead of blocking because the idea of disgusting monsters touching her makes her sick. Ironically, because she wants to kill monsters more than anything, she picked the class that forces her to get as close to them as possible. That logic hurts Orhan's brain. He calmly points out that dodging attacks is much harder than blocking them, especially for someone with little experience. He asks if anyone in the clan tried to stop her. Logan answers that plenty of people did, and Caroline ignored all of them. That comment instantly turns into a loud argument between the two. To stop this nonsense before it turns into a duel, Orhun asks the final member to introduce herself. Sophia steps forward and says her name is Sophia Clottle. She explains that she's a rear line attack mage. The moment she finishes, Logan and Caroline start arguing again. Orhun sighs internally. This mission is going to be pain. Surprisingly, the moment they step into the labyrinth, the kids go quiet. The dungeon atmosphere instantly shuts their mouths. While walking, Caroline asks why someone from the heroes' party is even here. She thought their clans were rivals. Orhun calmly explains that he's no longer part of that team. It's a highly prestigious group after all, and he's not in it anymore. Caroline pushes further and demands to know why he left. Orhun refuses to answer. Hard stop. Changing targets, Caroline looks at Sophia and says she must already know Orhun, since she mentioned they'd be escorted by someone amazing. Caroline demands confirmation. Is this the amazing guy? Cornered, Sophia turns as red as her hair and admits that yes, this is him. She says Orhun saved her life once, that he's incredibly strong, and that he used to be part of the heroes' party. She also says her sister told her not to worry, because as long as Dora was there, everything would be fine. Orhun listens quietly. He doesn't see himself as a hero at all. He even wonders if Selma exaggerated everything just to keep her sister calm. Suddenly, 2 wolves that had been silently watching decide to attack from behind. Bad idea. They leap forward and instantly trigger a magical trap Orhun placed earlier along the path. The wolves are neutralized before they even reach the group. Orhun feels relieved. Preparing traps for surprise attacks was the right call. These kinds of enemies aren't worth wasting time on. Time is precious here. If they're going to struggle, it should be against real threats. Later, when Team 10 reaches the 20th floor, Orhun has seen enough. He won't have much trouble supervising them for the rest of the expedition. Logan, despite being annoying, is actually talented. His enchantments are solid, and if he performs well in longer fights, he'll be very useful in a ranked group someday. That said, he's terrible at giving orders, which is a big problem for his role. Still, that's something he can learn with time. Caroline is insanely fast, just like a dodge-based defender should be, but she has 2 serious problems. First, she attacks without thinking and constantly puts herself in danger. Yes, she needs to be on the front line, but the way she throws herself into danger is worrying. Second, she only uses 2 daggers. They fit her style, but the damage output is low. The team lacks firepower because of it. Sophia isn't as flashy as the other 2, but she's already stronger than an average rookie. She hesitates sometimes and stays passive during fights, but that should improve once she syncs better with her teammates. Most importantly, she doesn't have any major weaknesses, which makes her future growth very promising. Meanwhile, Selma's group, with help from the escorts, defeats the boss of the 20th floor. After that, the rookies register the floor on their guild cards, officially ending the first day of the expedition. With some time to relax, Selma asks Orhun what he thinks. He says Team 10 has serious potential, but they don't work well together yet. He admits he's especially worried about Caroline. Selma says she's already improved a lot recently. Orhun can't help but wonder how terrifying she must have been before that improvement. The next morning, Orhun's mood crashes hard. He opens the newspaper and sees a front-page article about the Heroes Party's new enchanter. The article openly states that Orhun was expelled. No mercy, no respect. it. Angry and humiliated, he crushes the paper in his hands. What worries him even more is the thought that some rookie might have read it and started looking at him differently. That's the last thing he wants. As he leaves the inn and heads to the meeting point, a familiar voice calls out to him. It's Luna, someone he hasn't seen in a long time. Back when Orhun was still in the hero's party, when everyone else treated him worse and worse, Luna stayed kind. Always. When he was expelled, she wasn't there. She had been away handling a family matter. And deep down, Orhun believes that if she had been there, things might have gone differently. Luna looks at him with desperate eyes and begs him to come back to the party. Orhun asks the obvious question, do the others want him back too? Luna hesitates and admits that she's the only one asking. Still, she promises that if he returns, she'll do everything she can to convince the others. Orhun can see she means it. She's serious. But he shakes his head. It's too late now, especially after that article. Luna grabs his hand and reminds him of their promise to conquer the Great Labyrinth together. Orhun's expression hardens. He pulls his hand away and says that promise was made by 3 people. Him, Luna, and Oliver. And Oliver was the one who kicked him out. That promise is dead. With that, Orhun walks away, irritated and heavy-hearted. Deep down, he admits that he truly wanted the 3 of them to stay together forever. He really wanted that future, but wishing won't change reality. Orhun Dora has no place to return to anymore. When Orhun reaches the meeting spot, he immediately feels something is off. The students are whispering to each other, clearly talking about the article that spread overnight. They're confused and curious, wondering why Orhun never told them that he was removed from the hero party. Before anyone can question him directly, Selma shows up. She quickly apologizes to Orhun. The day before, she had proudly told the students again and again that he was a member of the hero party, not knowing the truth. Orhun calmly tells her it's fine. He admits that part of the misunderstanding is his fault, since he never clearly explained what happened back then. He reminds everyone that no matter what the article says, the facts haven't changed. He still reached the 94th floor on his own and had no trouble leading them the previous day. A rumor like this doesn't erase his experience or strength. Caroline and Sophia never doubted him for a second, but Logan looks far less convinced. Logan directly asks if the article is true. Orhun answers honestly, yes, he was kicked out for being too weak, but strength is relative. Even so, he promises that he's more than capable of guiding them safely down to the 51st floor. Most of the group accepts this, but Logan silently decides that Orhun must be overrated. They soon enter the dungeon, aiming to reach the 35th floor by the end of the day. Until they pass the 31st floor, Orhun isn't allowed to fight and can only supervise. All he can do is watch closely and step in only if something goes seriously wrong. Thankfully, the students handle the early floors smoothly thanks to their talent. Once they reach the 31st floor, Orhun finally takes command and moves to the front. Suddenly, he raises his hand and tells everyone to stop. He senses monsters nearby. The group immediately prepares for combat as goblins appear ahead. Orhun tells Caroline to attack first. She rushes forward without hesitation, but she pushes herself a bit too far. Orhun is about to ask Logan to support her with magic, but Logan has already started casting. He doesn't see the point in waiting for Orhun's orders, especially since he no longer sees him as a real hero. Orhun notices Logan's attitude, but he doesn't react. Instead, his attention shifts to Sophia. She's facing an orc and completely frozen in fear. Memories of her past dungeon trauma are holding her back. Orhun chooses not to jump in immediately. Logan, watching this, thinks Orhun is a terrible instructor for letting her struggle and prepares to rescue her himself. That's when Logan realizes something strange. Orhun has quietly cast a spell that slows the orc down, giving Sophia extra time, without drawing attention to it. Orhun calmly speaks to her, reminding her that she isn't alone anymore. Caroline, Logan, and he are all right there. If anything goes wrong, they'll help her. Those words make a huge difference. Regaining her confidence, Sophia launches a powerful fire javelin spell and completely destroys the orc. Even Orhun is caught off guard. He didn't know she could use advanced level magic. Caroline excitedly praises Sophia, and Orhun congratulates her sincerely. Logan, however, is left stunned. Orhun's timing, judgment, and hidden spellcasting were flawless. It makes no sense to him that someone with skills like this would be expelled from the hero party. For the first time, he starts questioning what he believes. The group eventually reaches the 35th floor, but their progress comes to a sudden halt when a massive tarantula blocks their path. Logan panics. He knows none of them can beat that monster alone. He's just about to suggest retreating when Orhun calmly gives an order. He tells Logan to cast speed, magic power, and defense buffs on the team because they're going to fight. Logan thinks attacking the giant spider is completely insane, but before he can argue, Caroline has already rushed forward to face it head on. He panics and tries to follow her, but Orhun quickly stops him. He explains that as a support mage, Logan would only put himself in danger by going to the front. Instead, Orhun shouts instructions to Caroline. He tells her to leap over the spider and strike from behind. She follows his command perfectly, jumping over the massive creature and landing several solid blows on its back. The spider immediately turns all its attention toward her. Orhun tells Caroline to keep the monster focused on her, but warns her to stay away from its poison. Thanks to her speed, she barely manages to stay ahead of the spider's attacks. Seeing this, Orhun orders Logan to keep the buffs active while Sophia prepares her spell. Once Sophia finishes casting, she releases multiple wind blades. The sharp air slashes slice through the spider's legs, cutting off 4 of them and slamming the creature into the ground. Still, it's not defeated yet. Orhun calmly tells Logan to cast another boost, this time increasing Caroline's strength and speed. Logan doesn't understand why at first, but the reason becomes clear almost immediately. The spider suddenly fires sticky webbing and drags Caroline toward its open mouth. This is exactly what Orhun predicted. The strength boost was meant to help Caroline break free on her own, but even with the buff, she's still struggling. At that moment, Orhun secretly enhances the sharpness of her dagger. With the extra cutting power, Caroline finally slices through the web and escapes. Now it's time to end the fight. Orhun tells Sophia to fire a rock bullet spell. The attack slams into the spider and finishes it off for good. With the battle over, Orhun praises everyone for their teamwork. After that, the group returns safely to the surface. Tomorrow will be their final day when they attempt to push all the way down to the 51st floor. Selma reminds everyone to rest well and prepare themselves. As Orhun is heading out, 2 other supervisors call out to him. They aren't looking for trouble, they simply invite him to have dinner with them. Since he hasn't really talked to them much during the expedition, he agrees, and the 3 of them head to a tavern together. At the same time, Sophia, Caroline, and Logan are riding home in a carriage. Logan is unusually quiet, lost in thought after everything he witnessed. Remembering that Orhun once saved Sophia from a group of orcs, he asks her if she remembers how Orhun fought back then. Sophia says she doesn't recall all the details, but she remembers a powerful gust of wind when Orhun landed, followed by him enchanting his sword before cutting down the orcs. Logan guesses that the enchantment must have been a sharpness spell. That surprises him, because weapon enchantments are much harder than buffing people. What confuses him even more is why someone so talented with magic would fight using a sword. Sophia admits she doesn't really know either, but she did hear that Orhun recently started training as a frontline fighter. Hearing this makes Logan feel conflicted. He was angry and disappointed when he learned Orhun had been removed from the hero party, thinking he had failed somehow. But after today, he realizes how wrong he was. Orhun wasn't just a great supporter, he was exceptional. Casting debuffs is extremely difficult, yet Orhun used one effortlessly. Even Selma avoids debuffs most of the time because of how complex they are. On top of that, Orhun read the battlefield perfectly, gave flawless instructions, and even predicted the spider's final move before it happened. Logan has never seen an enchanter anywhere near this level, so why would someone like that switch to being an attacker? Caroline asks if Orhun is at least strong with a sword. Sophia nods and says he has to be, otherwise he never could have saved her from those orcs. That's when it finally clicks for Logan. Orhun isn't just talented, he's a rare genius, someone who excels in both magic and swordsmanship. Logan understands now that surpassing Orhun is impossible, at least for the moment. Still, he refuses to give up. Quietly, he makes a promise to himself. He'll learn everything he can from Orhun and work hard until one day he can stand at the same level. Meanwhile, Orhun is at a tavern with the other supervisors, enjoying a well-earned meal. The food is surprisingly good, and the relaxed atmosphere feels nice after a long day. Curious, the others ask him what he used to do for fun back when he was part of the hero party. Orhun gives a small smile and says he barely had time for fun at all. Most of his days were spent handling errands, planning, and taking care of all the behind-the-scenes work. Hearing that, the others feel genuinely bad for him. It makes the article calling him useless sound even more ridiculous. If anything, it seems like Orhun was holding the entire party together. They tell him he shouldn't waste his energy worrying about people who failed to appreciate him. Hearing someone defend him like that means more than Orhun expected, and he thanks them sincerely. Still, they can't hide their curiosity. From what they know, Orhun was once an enchanter in the hero party, and according to Selma, an incredibly skilled one. So why did he suddenly switch to fighting on the front lines? Orhun explains that after leaving the hero party, he finally picked up a sword again, because that's what he always wanted. Before becoming an enchanter, he had joined the party as a swordsman, and becoming the strongest swordsman in the world was his lifelong dream. Watching his grandfather fight when he was younger inspired that goal. That raises another question. If being a swordsman was his dream, why become an enchanter at all? Orhun sighs and tells them it wasn't his choice. In the early days, as the hero party pushed deeper into the dungeon, the enemies became far stronger. Their team setup simply couldn't keep up. Around that time, Selma's influence began spreading, and the party decided they needed an enchanter. Since Orhun could learn almost anything, the responsibility naturally fell on him. It wasn't easy, but his decision allowed the party to reach the 94th floor. Still, Orhun says that wasn't truly a good thing. They advanced too quickly. Instead of slowly building strength, they rushed forward unprepared. Whatever waits on the 94th floor is something the hero party absolutely cannot handle right now. Trying to go further would be nothing but reckless. The mood shifts when they notice Orhun growing tense, so they quickly change the subject. They ask him what kind of swordsman he wants to become. Orhun answers without hesitation. He wants to be a versatile swordsman, someone who can adapt to any situation and even survive the deepest floors alone. The others are stunned. It's an unheard of goal, but if anyone could achieve it, they believe Orhun can. The next day, the hero party enters the dungeon once again, and remembering Orhun's warning about the danger beyond the 94th floor, one thing becomes painfully clear. They're about to do something incredibly foolish. On his last day, Orhun walks over to the new group to say goodbye, and the three kids run to him with big smiles, happy to see their teacher one final time, while Caroline jokes that this whole journey would feel better if there was a reward waiting at the end, making Logan curious enough to ask what kind of prize she wants. And Caroline slowly looks at Sophia, causing Sophia to turn red because she already understands the hint, and just as she gathers the courage to speak, Orhun gets called away and hears two adventurers talking about how the hero team is heading deep into the Great Southern Labyrinth from the 92nd floor to test a new battle plan, which makes him quietly worry they should start on safer floors, but he pushes the thought aside and keeps moving, while at the same time on the 92nd floor, Oliver feels confident and believes victory is guaranteed now that the team is free from what he calls their weak link, with most of the group agreeing except Luna, because 2 days earlier, a cheerful new girl named Philly Carpenter joined them, full of energy and excitement, and Oliver proudly says she once reached the 100th floor of the Great Western Labyrinth and calls her their first real enchanter, making Dirk and Annalie laugh and joke that they no longer need to rely on the old member, as Philly thanks everyone for the warm welcome and notices the fancy room and expensive setup, asking if all this money really goes into missions, but Oliver quickly changes the topic and says today is about celebrating Philly, not talking about Orhun, when suddenly Luna rushes in with urgent news and announces that Orhun has joined a powerful team called the Night Sky Silver Rabbits and is heading into the same labyrinth, shocking everyone who can't believe someone they see as useless could join such a strong group. And when Luna learns the truth that Orhun was kicked out and replaced by Philly, she gets angry and says it was a huge mistake because Orhun was the heart of the team and the reason they survived so long, while Annalie and Dirk argue back and say the rest of them don't feel the same, leaving Luna to finally accept that he is gone for good, which makes Oliver feel relieved as he explains their next plan to test Philly on the 92nd floor in 2 days before pushing deeper to the 94th. But Luna crosses her arms and warns them this is reckless and that even if Philly is skilled, they should start on safer floors, reminding them of the dangerous black dragon that nearly killed them before, yet the others brush her off and keep blaming Orhun for past struggles, forcing Oliver to end the argument by saying the mission will only test their new setup and not fight the dragon. And now back in the present, the hero party is already in trouble as they face powerful enemies without fully knowing how to work with their new member, and standing in front of them is a huge mammoth-like monster with thick skin and massive strength as Oliver charges forward, but the beast blocks him with its long tusks. Oliver's attack misses and he quickly pulls back as Dirk steps forward with his shield to take the front, but But at the same time, Oliver feels his body grow heavy because his magic boosts fade away, making him turn to Philly and ask why the power spells keep stopping. And she nervously admits she still doesn't understand how the team fights or when to use her magic, which makes Oliver remember how Orhun learned everything in less than an hour on his very first day. And before he can think more, the mammoth slams into Dirk with massive force, nearly knocking him down, causing Annalie to shout because she almost gets hit too. And even though Dirk grits his teeth and tries to hold on, everything feels harder than usual. Annalie shoots flames at the beast, but they barely leave a mark, making Oliver stare in shock as he realizes her strength is much weaker than normal. So he tells Philly to boost Annalie, and even though Philly says she already did, she tries again. Yet Annalie's next attack still does nothing, which confuses Oliver because he believed Philly's magic should be stronger than Orhun's ever was. While Dirk struggles to keep the monster back and yells for help, snapping Oliver back to his senses as he orders Annalie to circle around and attack from the side. But the beast notices her instantly and forces her to jump away, making Oliver tell Philly to watch the enemy and warn them of its moves, only for her to admit she can't do that and can only focus on support magic, which makes Annalie groan in frustration as Oliver looks around and starts to panic because everyone feels weaker and he doesn't understand why. And just as Luna steps forward to explain the real reason, the ground begins to shake and a massive shadow covers them as the black dragon appears, filling the air with fear and heat, making Oliver gasp because the dragon was never supposed to leave its boss area. But the dragon doesn't care and crushes the mammoth like it's nothing, causing Luna to shout for everyone to run, while Dirk and Annalie refuse to back down, and Oliver clenches his fist, saying they beat this monster once and can do it again. But the dragon fires a blazing fireball that sends Dirk flying even with his shield up, forcing Luna to rush over and heal him, as Oliver turns in anger and demands to know why Philly didn't boost their front fighter, only to see her frozen in fear and unable to move. And when Annalie throws a long spear of fire at the dragon, it still does nothing, while the dragon's attack explodes nearby and throws her to the ground, making Luna scream for them to escape, as Oliver's mind spins in chaos and fear. And when the dragon begins charging a huge attack, Oliver grabs Philly, snaps her out of it, and begs for a boost, which she finally gives, allowing Oliver to pour all his strength into one powerful move. But even though a bright holy blast crashes into the dragon's fire in a massive explosion, the dragon stands untouched, making Oliver realize they can't win, and with his voice shaking, he asks Luna what to do, and she tells him he's the leader and must decide, but then offers the only way out by telling him to use the Whimsy Portal, a rare item that opens a doorway inside the maze and throws anyone who enters to a random place. Even though Philly warns it could send them to another boss area, Luna says it's still better than staying, so Oliver slams the item onto the ground and a glowing doorway opens. But before the team can move, the black dragon blocks them with a wall of fire, and in a shocking moment, the dragon itself steps into the portal, which snaps shut right after it. Dirk finally breathes out, thinking the danger is over, but Luna quickly shakes her head and says this is actually worse because the dragon might now be in a weaker area where new and helpless adventurers could get killed. So she decides to contact the guild and use the emergency function on their guild cards, explaining that this special feature can pull them out of the labyrinth in life or death moments, even if they get punished later. And Oliver agrees and gets ready to activate it, but Luna stops him and points out that Dirk and Annalie are too injured to even stand yet. So while she heals them, she speaks up and says that when they go back to face the dragon, they should replace Philly with Orhun, which makes the others protest right away. And that's when Luna raises her voice and finally reveals the truth she wanted to explain earlier, saying none of them got weaker at all, and everyone is just as strong as before, making Oliver argue that even his strongest attack couldn't hurt the dragon. But Luna explains that without Orhun, their power isn't being used the right way, and she tells Oliver that he barely charged any magic before firing his holy move, which is why it felt so weak. Then she asks him what all support magic has in common, and Oliver answers that the strength depends on the caster, while the time it lasts depends on the person receiving it, and the enchanter has to keep refreshing it because most boosts only last a few minutes. And Philly admits that part is true, but adds the real problem is that this team has very high magic resistance, so support spells fade extremely fast, sometimes in less than 2 minutes, and for Oliver it can disappear in under a minute, which makes Oliver angry. But Luna calmly explains that his body just doesn't work well with normal enchanters, and says Orhun was different because he could do things that shouldn't be possible. And when Oliver scoffs and says Philly should be able to do the same, Luna shakes her head and explains that Orhun knew his limits, once, and instead of complaining, he created his own spells to make up for them, which shocks Oliver, Dirk, and Annalie. And when they refuse to believe it, Luna looks them in the eyes and says it's true, then tells them they don't have time and need to leave now. And as they rush out of the labyrinth, Oliver remembers Orhun once talking about making his own magic, something he had laughed off before. But Luna corrects him and says Orhun created a support spell that could boost their power more than 50 times, making Philly gasp and say that even the famous Selma from the Night Sky Silver Rabbits can only boost 10 times at best. And that's when Oliver finally understands that his Divine Flash only felt strong because of Orhun's magic. And Luna confirms that both Oliver's sword attacks and Annalie's spells were being raised nearly 50 times whenever Orhun supported them, which made Oliver grow careless and stop focusing properly, trusting the boosts to do the work. And she adds that Annalie had the same issue because without Orhun, she could only cast average spells. And it wasn't just offense either, because Orhun also strengthened Dirk's armor and defense at the same time, so when his magic vanished, the team didn't just lose power, their bodies also felt heavy and slow, and later, once they make it outside, other adventurers call them heroes. But Oliver lowers his head and says they don't deserve that title after almost putting others in danger, and even though they once defeated the Black Dragon, he reminds himself that back then, he swung his sword with his own hands, and in his heart, he still believes the hero party doesn't need Orhun.